All right. So what we did last time is we fought. We did a duel. I did a little bit of a tutorial and showed people grasping the game, what it's like to play Cold Waters. Maybe people took a little bit away from it. I'm going to do another single mission. I'm going to play something called the Giants. I did a little bit of searching, and I figured out this one I can actually play the Alpha class, which is my favorite submarine. And I'm going to click it, and I'm going to start it. And we're going to be fighting some submarines as well. So we're going to go over to my favorite submarine, which is called the Alfa II. I like it because it's very deep diving. It's extremely fast, has a large number of wires, very maneuverable. It's got a good active sonar, but it cannot hear passively very well. It does have these things called creep motors. You can see these little tiny propellers here. So at 5 knots, it utilizes these creep motors and mitigates a lot of the sound generated by the central screw in the center. It actually has a really weird looking propeller where it's like multi-bladed, but they're staggered. So we're going to use this. I think we're fighting other submarines. I think it might be 1 or 2, but we'll find out. So we're going to pick our torpedoes. I don't think we're going to use all of these torpedoes, but for the sake of it all, I'm going to get rid of these. You can unload and load things by pressing the load weapon down, and this enables you to carry more things. These are rocket-propelled torpedoes, so you could fire them at a shallow depth. They go through the air, they land in front of the submarine or ship you're wanting to shoot at, and they spiral down, and they lock on. The disadvantage to these is they have a very, very small warhead, so they're not very effective. You might need a couple of these. You can cripple a submarine, but most likely won't kill it. MG90s are the Moss, it's just the Russian name for it. 5365M are wake homing torpedoes. So they're torpedoes that are good for surface ships because obviously surface ships create a wake, and if you fire it close enough, it will home in on the wake, and no amount of countermeasures will get rid of this torpedo. It will chase you until it hits you, or it runs out of fuel. So they're very good for surface ships. But for now, I'm going to use the UGST, which is the Russian torpedo, very closely related to the ADCAP. So we're going to put as much as we can in here. I doubt we're ever going to use these. So I'm going to load a Moss, just in case, because chances are they're going to detect this submarine because the Alpha is extremely loud. So we're going to go all hand-manned battle stations. We're going to go, okay, bearing 269. Just make sure, remember that number, 269.
Console. Rig ship for ultra quiet.
All right, so let us take a look. We'll take stock of what we got. We're at a depth of 400 meters, bearing 269. As you can see, we can't hear it because we're deaf. Oh, here's another mechanic I want to get into. We didn't have this on the first tutorial mission. So on this one, I'm going to go over what layer ducts are. And this is actually very nice. A duct and a layer is a boundary layer where a cold temperature of water meets a hot temperature of water. And this layer right here is sound deadening to an extent, depending on the strength. So if you hide near this layer, people from the top can't hear you. And if you're fighting submarines below this layer, if you skim right on top of this layer, they can't hear you. So it's very easy to hide from submarines using this layer, and it's actually a very lucrative way to play this game. The difference is there's a threshold where if you go below a certain threshold layer from this, it will actually negate this effect. So right now we're at 400 meters. Our layer is at 307. This is actually a little bit too low. We're going to want to go to 350, and then we would be
350 feet. Dive by.
Excuse me, I'm just letting the gentleman talk. We're going to be in the shadow zone, people call it. So this is the shadow zone for people above us, and if I was hunting submarines below this, I would go the other way. So right now, I'm going to go to bearing 269. So 269 is about here, dead ahead. I'm going to want to go this way.
Come right to 348 helm I.
The reason why I'm doing this is I'm going to allow my towed array to come to bear. and then I'm gonna use this and as much equipment
Con
as I
sonar,
can.
new contact bearing 273, designated Sierra 1.
So as you can see, the second I turned and I allowed my total,
dive at 350 feet, dive by.
the second I allowed my towed array to come to bear, I immediately detected the submarine, right? Also, it doesn't help that it was cavitating. So I can tell by these two low frequencies that this is a submarine. So I'm going to search with my M key, and I'm going to start searching just so you guys can take a look at this old girl. I'm going to start searching. We're going to find out what this is.
Helm, steady course.
I want to say it's Russian. So we'll go the other way.
Con sonar, lost contact. Sierra 1, last bearing 27.
Come left to 313. Helm aye.
It's going to take some finagling. The Alpha is a pretty hard boat to use, strictly because it's very hard to acquire stuff passively. You got to do some finagling. I'm just waiting for it to pick it up again. A lot of submariners actually call this sonar suite the Helen Keller sonar suite because it's only able to detect things if you run into them. So I know this is relatively in this area. I'm willing to bet it's probably a big area that this submarine's in.
Come right to 323. Helm aye. Come right to 325. Helm aye.
So I went into the talk about layers, which leads me to believe that it could be above the layer. I'm going to sneak above.
Make depth 250 feet, dive by.
I'm going to see if I can find anything above the layer.
Con, helm, steady course.
If you're curious as well, anybody who's watching the stream and anybody who's watching YouTube right now, you can manually control your submarine as well using the WASD keys, or I just call it WASD, and the Q, Z, because I'm Canadian, it's Z, not Z, E and C keys. These all do different things to your submarine. If you'd like to immediately cancel the attitude of your submarine and revert it just to a stable course, you just hit the X key, and it will cancel everything that you're inputting into the submarine and just steady it out. Very handy if you want to do really quick course corrections. You hit X and then give it the alternate feed. It stops a lot of the juggling you have to do with your hands. So chances are I'm not going to hear this submarine, just because, like I said, the Alpha is quite deaf. I'm going to give it a couple more minutes of hunting around.
Con, dive at 250 feet, dive by.
And if I can't hear it, I'm going to just go active and give her what for. Because the Alpha is extremely fast, it has a top speed of 46 knots. I'm confident that I can outrun almost anything that has the ability to fire at me. So I do play it awfully aggressive with this submarine. I do a lot less hunting and I do a whole lot more killing with this thing. So the speed kind of gives it that edge where you can be a little bit more ignorant with your playstyle. If that's what you like, the Alpha's for you, totally. If you'd like to sneak up on people, I'd probably go for the American submarines. They're a lot more quieter in terms of operation. I'd go for the Seawolf or the Los Angeles class. Both of those are excellent choices. So I'm going to time accelerate.
Con sonar, regained contact on Sierra 1, bearing 260.
And I'm going to take this time to nail this submarine down quickly. Before it leaves again. Makes it a little bit more difficult to acquire different submarines with the additional playable subs, just because you have a lot to cycle through. You start to... Oh, you can see that I'm starting to lose a little bit of this bearing on the submarine, so I might...
Come left to 291. Helm aye.
think. That almost looks like a November, doesn't it? I think this might be a November. A good tactic I usually use with the Alpha class is an ironic sense is that it's very... Sorry, I'm staring at my screen, so I might be making different noises as I talk. You can see that...
Come right to 301 Helm I.
How narrow these lines are makes it really difficult to distinguish. So what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to do what I usually do with the Alpha class. Just ironically how fast it is, I will actually break this submarine to 0.
Make turns for 0 knots. Maneuvering I.
So if I stop completely dead, you'll see the waterfall clear right up.
Con, helm, steady course.
And you can see that line becomes a little bit more distinguishable among the muck that is the sonar waterfall here. And I'm almost willing to bet that this is in November. This kind of makes me nervous. I'm probably wrong though. Lost all my confidence. No, that's not a Sierra. I'm sure that's in November, boys.
Con sonar, Sierra 1 is classified as submerged submarine.
I'm gonna try. It's a November 2. So it's somewhere in here. So you'll see that as I'm playing, the solution is at 79%. I can kind of get its course, but I can't see it or make it out. The more you listen to it, the more accurate your solution becomes. And eventually, once you get to a high enough solution, you can physically see. So if I hit F2, I can't see it, but I know that there's something here. And if I turn around, there's my submarine right there. So it's going to be coming right by me. I need to be very, very careful, because that November is going to hear me. Actually, judging by this, it almost definitely already does hear me. So if I make any noise, it's going to fire. There it is. It just cavitated. So those bubbles that it just made out, that's cavitation. As you can see, it is a November 2. It's going 12 knots. So I don't know if it is going to hear me, strictly because it's going so fast, and I know that the sonar suite on Russian submarines is trash. At least the passive is, and I know I'm not making any noise. So I'm going to do a little bit of risky business, and I'm going to slip below the layer.
Make depth 350 feet, dive by.
And you'll see as I slip below, this number will actually decrease.
Con sonar lost contact. Sierra 1, last bearing 257. Contact faded.
Or it'll completely go away because I'll lose them in the shadow zone. So that's basically what happened. I know the November's traveling at a course this way. So if I'm lucky, I could probably sneak in behind
Dive
it.
at 350 feet, dive by.
And I think I will.
Come left to 214 Helm I.
I'll go 5 knots.
Make turns for 4 knots. Maneuvering I.
So this is extremely risky. If I were in a different submarine, I would probably just snapshot. But because I know I can outrun should this guy fire at me, I'm going to try my best to try and get in behind it and take a little bit of a risk. I'm not too concerned with being fired on in the Alpha. I've played quite many hours with it. So I know it's somewhere around here. He's probably traveling by. Actually, you guys probably want to see me take some risks. So here.
Come right to 263 Helm I.
So let's take some risks then. Since we can afford to take it, and I'm relatively experienced with this kind of boat, let's go back up.
Make depth 250 feet, dive I.
And I'm going to stop my engines.
Make turns
Maybe
for
actually I'll go
0.
2 knots.
Make turns for 2 knots. Maneuvering I.
Yeah, I'm going to go 2 knots, and I'm going to go above the layer, and I'm going to acquire this November 2 again. Let's be a little bit risky. I'll show you some torpedo evasion then.
Con sonar regained contact on Sierra 1, bearing 258.
So you'll see that immediately I caught a whiff of a sound here, and as my solution down here develops, you'll see that this will actually change. He's probably here. Honestly, I'm willing to bet he's probably right here. I'll try and use this map a little bit more. That way you can actually see the game.
Con helm, steady course.
So you can actually see how beneficial the shadow zone is. I only went down 50 meters, or 100 meters rather, and he completely disappeared. And I know for a fact I disappeared to him.
Con maneuvering. Making turns for 2 knots.
Con, dive at 250 feet, dive I.
All right. Had to look at some chat, make sure people were watching, if they were. So you'll see that the solution is at 57%. I know he's probably, I want to guess he's right here. Probably right here. Oh, he changed direction.
Come right to 291 Helm I.
Another thing you're going to notice is that as you change your angle, your submarine will actually become more or less detectable because the profile of your submarine actually becomes larger, right? Because it's hard to believe, well, it's easy to believe, but your submarine looking dead on is just a big tube, right? It's just a tube. So if you're looking dead on, this is such a small profile. Whereas if you're this, you're huge. They're going to see all of you, right? Especially if you're making noise. Whereas if all your noisy bits, like your propellers, are in the back, or your screws rather, here, you're not going to hear that. It's going to be buried in behind all of this metal in front of you, right? Whereas if you're behind it, you can clearly hear that propeller, or screw rather, turning in the water. So it's a balance between using your towed array being at a perpendicular angle like this, or right now it's parallel, or being dead on with them and using your passive array to kind of acquire them. So because the Alpha is deaf in terms of passive array, I almost depend on my towed array unless I want to go active and risk it, which is fine. I have no problem going active. So this November is up on the surface to my left. There he is. So right here, this is the November. I think, oh, he hears me, has to hear me. All right, so let's be a little risky, shall we? I'll show you some torpedo evasion, and I'll show you the different aspects, like forming knuckles and using
Con
your
helm, steady course.
and using your countermeasures such as your decoys. Decoys are going to be your Shift D key. Get used to that. Trust me, it's very, very important to learn. So I'm going to sneak up on this November. And by sneak up, I mean just loudly fire at it. So I'm going to snapshot probably just right here and see if we can get it, a lock on it right now. So I'm going to probably fire 2 torpedoes at it. And we will see how I do. So I'm going to use this side of my submarine, even though it doesn't matter since my torpedoes are all on the nose. And I'm going to fire right... I'm going to fire right here.
Shoot 2-5. Aye, sir. Shoot 2-6. Aye, sir.
So these are my torpedoes. They're leaving. I'm going to try and clear the data.
Con sonar, lost transient from Sierra 1.
I'm going to fire
Con
on...
sonar, lost transient from Sierra 1.
I'm going to fire a Moss. And I'm going to try and dip below the layer.
Make depth 350 feet. Dive by.
So you can see that he's already firing countermeasures, right? So how to avoid a torpedo is I'm going to want to quickly turn into the torpedoes because he's activating them at a certain distance. And I'm going to want to turn my speed up a little bit.
Make turns for 10 knots.
And I'm going to want to dive
maneuvering
below.
aye.
So if I can turn my speed up and get below them before they activate, they're going to activate past me and not hear me. So what I'm going to want to do is steer these torpedoes while I still have my wire, as well as turn underneath these torpedoes. And if they hear me, I'm just going to say screw it.
Con, fire control, weapon acquired.
So these two torpedoes...
Con, fire control, weapon acquired.
So these two
Con
torpedoes
sonar,
hear him.
noisemaker bearing 180.
And these torpedoes right here that he fired at me have
Con,
not heard me.
dive at 350 feet. Dive by.
So I'm going to want to turn around
Come left to 091.
because I
Helm
don't
aye.
want these torpedoes to activate on me.
Con, fire control, weapon countermeasure homing.
So he has actually avoided two of my torpedoes.
Con, fire control, weapon acquired.
So that has acquired my Moss, and I don't want that. So I'm going to try and steer these torpedoes back on this November by using my tactical map right now.
Con sonar, noisemaker bearing 137.
So this torpedo is going after the Moss. That
Con,
torpedo is
fire
going
control,
after
weapon acquired.
the right there. I'm going to want to get ahead of it. Use my number pad, steer my torpedo.
Con, helm, steady course.
Con, fire
There we
control,
go.
weapon acquired.
He's not getting away from me now.
Con sonar, lost contact. Sierra 1, last bearing 143. Contact breaking up.
So you actually see how effective this Moss is right here. This Moss is actually attracting that torpedo I fired at. So it's thinking, my torpedo thinks that this Moss is a submarine. So once it realizes it and gets up on top of it and it's like, hey, there's nothing here, it's going to start a search pattern and turn around back on it. So you'll see it. See? And now it's going to do a circular search pattern, and it's going to try and look again. I do have a wire hooked up, so I could steer this torpedo if I really truly wanted to, and I could steer it wherever I wanted to. Now, because I know that this submarine is dead, I'm going to steer this long away from me, because I do not want this thing coming after me. So that torpedo is totally fine. Also, with the Russians, they actually have a wire on the Moss, so you can control your Moss as well, and it can mimic a submarine. So you can actually steer it away if you really want to. Oh, my mistake. Okay, so that was actually pretty easy. And as you can see, that was elite difficulty. It's truly not that bad.
Rig ship for ultra quiet.
Once you get the hang of it, it's just the tactics that are hard and utilizing all of your resources. So those torpedoes that he fired at me, I used simple, like pre-evasive tactics, I'll call them. So when the torpedo comes at you, there's an activation range. So as you saw, when you fire a torpedo, you choose a range that you want your torpedo to activate, and then it will start actively pinging or actively listening to the submarine that is making noise or that you're firing at. Now, when he fires, he clearly didn't hear me, so he fired on the bearing that my torpedoes came from, assuming that they were just fired by a submarine, which is correct. I was actually where I was supposed to be, but the difference is I actually knew that he was going to fire, and I actively took corrections to avoid being fired at. So what I did was I turned, it sounds counterintuitive, but I turned directly into the torpedoes and I went underneath them. So sometimes you might want to adapt your speed. Maybe you might not go 10 knots, maybe you'll go 30 knots, maybe you'll go 40 knots, right? You want to dive under the torpedo and get as close as you can and underneath them before they activate. Because if they activate past you, you've already won. You're already behind them. They can't hear behind them because they have their own baffles. So once you get behind them and they activate, as long as you keep from steering back into those torpedoes, you've already won. See, as you can see by the torpedoes here, they're looking. They're in an S search pattern, but they'll never find me because I'm over here. So this was a pretty easy one. I didn't think it was going to actually take one torpedo to kill it. So how deep is it? Oh, we can go to 19. So let's go down. Let's go check this out. Let's go check out this November. We'll go up.
Make turns
We'll go a couple
for
of knots
1.
faster. We can go 20
Make
knots.
turns for 2, 0 knots. Maneuvering aye.
So you can hear those
Con
noises?
maneuvering. Making turns
broke the
for
wire?
2.
Passing 400 feet.
Don't try this with an American submarine. Where I'm going right now,
Passing 500 feet.
Go.
Passing 600 feet. Passing 700 feet. Passing 800 feet. Passing 900 feet. Passing 1,000 feet.
If you ever want to reload your torpedoes, just hit R, select what you want, take your
Passing 1,100 feet.
your mouse away from it, and they will automatically load the torpedoes. You'll see the nose of it start getting slid in.
Passing 1,200 feet.
Go even lower.
Passing 1,300 feet. Passing 1,400 feet. Passing 1,500 feet.
And we'll get a good look at this November. This is an easy battle.
Passing 6.
Make turns for 1, 0 knots. Maneuvering aye.
So you hit
Passing
X,
1,700 feet.
just like I said before, and it will automatically level out all your planes.
Make turns for 5 knots. Maneuvering aye.
Con, torpedo room, tube 1 ready.
You'll eventually learn the fine controls like this, where you can actually get in behind stuff. You can also sink aircraft carriers too, and you can land right on the deck, put your submarine right on the deck of a sunken carrier, if it's shallow enough, mind you.
Make turns for 0 knots. Maneuvering aye. Con maneuver. Make turns for 0 knots. Maneuvering aye.
So yeah, there's our sunken November. We did a good job. Go team. Yeah, and that is how you avoid potential engagements by torpedoes. By just taking a little bit of preparation, understanding when you're going to be fired on, and even if you're not expecting to be fired on and you are, this tactic still works. Even if they know where you are, they don't know where you're going to be.
Con, torpedo room, tube 5 ready.
Be unpredictable. Make them really work for their solutions, and really make them work at figuring out where you are. Make them waste a lot of weapons, right? So it's not hard, not a hard concept, but practicing it is actually quite difficult. So
Rig ship for ultra quiet.
thanks for watching.
Make
I hope
turns
this was
for
informative.
5 knots.
Again,
Maneuvering aye.
I'm gonna upload this to my YouTube channel. If you'd like my YouTube channel details or my YouTube channel content, please subscribe. Like I said, It's completely free, but subscriptions is priceless to me. It would mean the world, and it's worth more than you'd know. Thank you so much for your patronage, and I will see you guys later. Take care, guys.